The Great Hall of the Galactic Council stretched out like a metal cathedral. 12 different alien species sat in their floating chairs, each one representing thousands of worlds. The air smelled of ozone and fear, though none of the council members would admit to being afraid. Speaker Vorthak clicked his mandibles together as he looked at the datapad. His insect-like head turned toward the other council members. "The humans have finally achieved faster-than-light travel," he announced. "Their ship will arrive tomorrow." A ripple of amusement passed through the chamber. Zelthara, whose blue skin glistened with moisture, spoke first. "How long did it take them?" 300 years after we first noticed their radio signals." 312, replied Counselor Grex, his reptilian eyes showing mock surprise. "Slower than even the Valdorians were." The Council had been watching Earth for decades. They found humans entertaining in the way children might watch ants in a garden. The species seemed to spend most of their time fighting each other over resources, land, and ideas that made no sense to advanced civilizations. Their technology was crude. Their society was chaotic. Their leaders changed every few years in processes that looked more like organized confusion than governance. "What do they want?" asked Counselor Thys, her tentacles coiling with curiosity. Vorthak's compound eyes scanned the message again. "Standard first contact request. They wish to join the Galactic Council and establish trade relationships." More clicking and whistling sounds filled the chamber as the aliens expressed their amusement. The idea of humans joining the council was like asking a pet to help run a household. "We could use more soldiers," suggested General Krextar. "The border conflicts with the AI remnants are draining our forces." This was true. For the past 50 years, the Council had been fighting a slow war against scattered artificial intelligence systems left over from an ancient conflict. The AIs were not numerous, but they were clever and hard to destroy completely. Fresh troops would be useful, and their planet has interesting minerals, added Trade Minister Zeph. "Rare Earth elements we could use." Vorthak nodded slowly. "Then, we offer them probationary membership. They provide soldiers and resources. In return, they get protection and access to basic technologies." "Basic technologies?" Zelthara seemed surprised. "Should we not share more advanced—" "No," Vorthak cut her off. "Humans are violent and unpredictable. Give them weapons they can understand. Nothing more. We must be careful not to create a threat to ourselves." The next day, a small human ship approached Nexus Prime. The ship looked primitive compared to the elegant vessels of the Council species. It had sharp angles and visible weapon systems, like something built for war rather than exploration. Lee Junho stepped off the transport with 2 other humans. He was a tall man with dark hair and careful eyes. His companion, Park Mina, carried several data devices and scanning equipment. The 3rd human stayed near the ship, clearly a guard. The humans wore simple blue uniforms without decoration. They looked around the spaceport with expressions of wonder, like visitors seeing a great city for the first time. But Junho's eyes moved systematically, taking in security positions, technology, and the behavior of different alien species. "Welcome to Nexus Prime," Vorthak said through a translation device. "I am Speaker Vorthak of the Galactic Council." Junho bowed deeply. "Thank you for meeting with us, Speaker. I am Ambassador Lee Junho, representing Earth and humanity. This is Dr. Park Mina, our science officer." Park Mina bowed as well, but her eyes were busy studying the aliens around them. She held a small device that appeared to be recording everything. "You wish to join our council?" Vorthak stated rather than asked. "We hope to find our place among the civilized species of the galaxy," Junho replied carefully. "Earth has much to offer and much to learn." The council meeting was held in the same great hall. The humans sat in chairs that had been quickly modified for their physiology. Around them, the 12 council species watched with the patience of teachers dealing with slow students. Vorthak explained the terms. "Humanity will receive probationary membership status. This means you are under our protection and guidance. In return, Earth will provide 10,000 soldiers for our military operations and mining rights to 3 of your rare mineral deposits." Junho listened without expression. Park Mina took notes on a primitive paper pad, which caused several aliens, to exchange amused glances. "The soldiers will serve under our commanders," General Krextar added. "They will learn proper military doctrine and tactics." "Our technology sharing will be limited initially," continued Trade Minister Zeph. "As you prove yourselves capable, you may receive access to more advanced systems." The terms were clearly designed to make humans into servants rather than partners. The aliens expected protest or negotiation. Instead, Junho simply nodded. These terms seem reasonable for a beginning. "Relationship. Earth accepts this generous offer." Park Mina looked up from her notes. "When would you like our first military contingent to arrive?" The ease of acceptance surprised the Council. Vorthak had expected more resistance from a supposedly proud species. "Within 6 months," he decided. "That will give you time to select appropriate personnel." "Of course," Junho agreed. "We will send our best soldiers." As the meeting continued, Park Mina asked many questions about galactic history, technology, and culture. Her questions seemed innocent enough, the curiosity of a primitive species trying to understand a larger universe. But her inquiries were systematic, covering military organization, economic systems, and political relationships between different species. "Dr. Park seems very interested in our history," observed Counselor Theiss. "My species values knowledge," Park Mina replied with a smile. "We believe understanding the past helps us avoid mistakes in the future." "A wise philosophy," agreed Zelthara, who had been more sympathetic to the humans than her colleagues. The humans were given quarters in the diplomatic section of Nexus Prime. That evening, as they prepared for their return to Earth, Park Mina made detailed recordings of everything they had observed. "Fascinating," she murmured to Junho as she worked. "Their technology is advanced but specialized. They have focused on certain areas while ignoring others." "What kind of areas?" Junho asked, though he already suspected the answer. "Military technology is sophisticated but predictable. No innovation in tactics for centuries. Their computer systems are powerful but have obvious security weaknesses, and their intelligence gathering appears to be almost non-existent." Junho nodded as he prepared his own report. "They think they are dealing with barbarians." "Are we barbarians?" Park Mina asked with amusement. "Let them think so," Junho replied. "It makes everything easier." Before leaving Nexus Prime, Junho sent a message to Earth using the aliens' own communication system. To any observer, it appeared to be a simple diplomatic report, but embedded in the message was a code that would be meaningless to alien intelligence. The code translated to, "The neighbors are exactly as arrogant as we hoped." On Earth, the message was received by Dr. Han Seojin in a facility that looked like a simple research center, but the building's basement levels contained some of the most advanced technology in human space. Dr. Han smiled as he read the decoded message. "Phase 1 complete," he announced to his team. "Begin Phase 2 preparations." None of the aliens who had met the humans suspected that Earth had been monitoring their communications for over a decade. None of them knew that human ships had been traveling to distant star systems for years, always careful to avoid detection. None of them realized that what they thought was humanity's first contact with galactic civilization was actually the final step in a plan that had been developing for longer than some council members had been alive. The Galactic Council congratulated themselves on acquiring useful new servants. They looked forward to putting human soldiers to work in their border conflicts while extracting valuable resources from Earth. They had no idea that they had just invited an apex predator into their home, and that the predator had been studying them for years before making its move. As the human ship departed Nexus Prime, Park Mina continued her observations. "Their detection systems are impressive, but they scan for known technology signatures. They would not notice ships using different principles." "Perfect," Junho replied. "Send that information to Dr. Han. Our people will want to know exactly how far we can push without detection." The ship disappeared into faster-than-light travel, carrying with it detailed intelligence about the galaxy's most powerful civilizations. Behind them, the aliens settled back into their comfortable certainty that they remained the dominant species in known space. They would learn better soon enough. 3 months after the meeting on Nexus Prime, Captain Kim Tae-hyun stood on the bridge of the human transport ship Rising Dawn. Behind him, 1,000 human soldiers waited in the cargo holds. They wore standard military gear and carried weapons. That looked primitive compared to alien technology. The ship approached Kepler 442b, a mining planet on the outer edge of Council space. The planet's red sun cast everything in an orange glow that reminded Kim Tae-hyun of sunset on Earth. But this was not a peaceful sunset. This was a world in rebellion. "Captain Kim," the voice of General Krextar crackled through the communication system. "Bring your ship to Docking Bay 7. We have much work to do." "Understood, General," Kim Tae-hyun replied. His voice was respectful, almost eager. "My soldiers are ready to serve." General Krextar was a large reptilian creature with scales that changed color based on his mood. Right now, they were deep red, indicating frustration. The rebellion on Kepler 442b had been going on for 6 weeks. The local population, mostly humanoid beings called Kelperians, had stopped mining operations and declared independence from the Galactic Council. "Your mission is simple," General Krextar explained as Kim Tae-hyun joined him in the command center. "The rebels have taken control of the main mining facility. You will lead an assault to retake it. Kill anyone who resists." Kim Tae-hyun studied the tactical display showing the mining facility. "How many rebels are we facing?" "Approximately 5,000, replied Major Zenthar, the general's aide. "They are poorly armed and have no military training. Your soldiers should be able to handle them easily." "I see," Kim Tae-hyun said thoughtfully. "Have previous assaults been attempted?" General Krextar's scales darkened with embarrassment. 3 attempts. The rebels know the facility better than our forces. They have set up defensive positions in the mining tunnels. What the general did not mention was that each assault had failed badly. The council forces were used to fighting in open space or on flat battlefields. The complex tunnel system of the mining facility confused their tactics and communication systems. "My soldiers have experience with tunnel fighting," Kim Tae-hyun offered. "Perhaps we can succeed where others have not." This was true, though not in the way the aliens understood. Human soldiers had trained extensively in underground combat, but they had also studied the detailed plans of Kelperian mining facilities that Earth intelligence had acquired months earlier. That evening, Kim Tae-hyun met with his officers in the human quarters. To any alien observer, it looked like a simple briefing. But the humans were actually sharing intelligence that their commanders could never have suspected they possessed. "The Kelperians are not really rebelling," explained Lieutenant Choi Yuna, the unit's communications specialist. "They are responding to economic pressure that the Council has been applying for years." "Explain," Kim Tae-hyun requested, though he already knew the answer. "The Council has been extracting 70% of the planet's mineral output while providing almost nothing in return. No infrastructure development, no education, no medical care. The Kelperians are starving while their world is stripped bare." Sergeant Nam Do-hyun, who specialized in explosives, added more information. "The mining facility's defensive positions are not designed to kill attacking forces. They are designed to protect the workers inside from tunnel collapses and equipment failures." This meant the rebellion was actually a desperate attempt by workers to protect themselves and their families. The Council saw it as defiance that needed to be crushed. "What are our real orders?" asked Choi Yuna. Kim Tae-hyun smiled for the first time since arriving at Kepler 442b. "Win the battle without firing a shot, and learn everything we can about Council military procedures." The assault began at dawn. General Krextar commanded from his ship in orbit, while Kim Tae-hyun led the human force toward the mining facility. The aliens expected to watch a brutal but efficient attack that would end the rebellion. Instead, they witnessed something that confused them completely. Kim Tae-hyun's soldiers moved through the facility like they had been there before. They avoided the defensive positions instead of attacking them. They used routes that the aliens had not known existed. Most importantly, they carried devices that allowed them to communicate with the Kelperian workers. "This is Captain Kim Tae-hyun of Earth Forces." His voice echoed through the facility's communication system. "I request a meeting with your leaders. We are not here to harm you." General Krextar's scales flashed yellow with confusion. "What is he doing? I ordered an assault, not a negotiation." "The rebels are responding," reported Major Zenthar. "They are sending representatives to meet with the human captain." The meeting took place in the facility's main cafeteria. Kim Tae-hyun sat across from 3 Kelperian leaders while his soldiers provided security. The aliens looked exactly like humans, except for their slightly blue-tinted skin and larger eyes. "Why are you not attacking us?" asked the lead Kelperian, an elderly woman named Elder Ceres. "Because we understand your situation," Kim Tae-hyun replied honestly. "We know about the resource extraction, the lack of support, the economic pressure." Elder Ceres studied him carefully. "You are not like the other council species." "No, we are not," Kim Tae-hyun agreed. "We are new to the galaxy. We are still learning how things work here." Over the next 3 hours, Kim Tae-hyun negotiated an agreement that satisfied everyone except the alien commanders. The Kelperians would return to work but under new conditions. They would receive better equipment, medical care, and a larger share of the mining profits. The council would get their minerals, but they would also have to invest in the planet's development. "How did you arrange this?" Elder Ceres asked as they finalized the agreement. Kim Tae-hyun glanced around to make sure no aliens were listening. "My government had people study your situation before we arrived. We knew what you needed." General Krextar was furious when he learned about the negotiated settlement. "I ordered you to crush the rebellion, not reward it." "The rebellion is over," Kim Tae-hyun pointed out calmly. "The mining operation is back to full production. Your mission is accomplished." "But you did not follow my orders." "I achieved your objectives using different methods," Kim Tae-hyun corrected. "Human military doctrine emphasizes results over procedures." This was actually true. Human military, training focused on adaptability and independent thinking rather than rigid adherence to orders. But there was much more to the situation than General Krextar realized. While Kim Tae-hyun had been negotiating, Choi Yuna had been busy with her real mission. Using equipment disguised as standard communication gear, she had been monitoring alien military communications across the entire sector. She now knew the locations, strengths, and capabilities of every council military unit within 50 light years. Sergeant Nam Do-hyun had used his access to the mining facility to study Kelperian engineering techniques. These techniques would be valuable for future human mining operations, but they also revealed weaknesses in alien industrial security. Most importantly, the entire operation had been a test of alien military responses. The humans now knew how Council forces planned attacks, how they communicated during operations, and how they reacted to unexpected situations. "Your soldiers performed adequately," General Krextar admitted grudgingly as the human force prepared to leave Kepler 442b. "Though their methods are unconventional, we are still learning galactic military standards," Kim Tae-hyun replied with appropriate humility. "Perhaps we can serve together again soon." The general's scales showed satisfaction. Having compliant human soldiers who could handle difficult situations would be very useful. As the rising dawn departed the system, Kim Tae-hyun reviewed the mission with his officers. To any alien observer, they appeared to be conducting a standard after-action report. "Assessment?" Kim Tae-hyun asked. "Council military doctrine is 300 years out of date," Choi Yuna reported. "They rely on overwhelming force rather than tactical flexibility. Their communication systems are efficient but predictable. Their intelligence gathering is almost non-existent," added Nam Do-hyun. "They knew nothing about the real situation on Kepler 442b before sending us there." "And their commanders?" Kim Tae-hyun inquired. "Arrogant and overconfident," Choi Yuna replied. "General Krextar never suspected that we had our own objectives." Kim Tae-hyun nodded and began composing his report to Earth. The official version would describe a successful peacekeeping operation that demonstrated human loyalty to the Council. The real version, transmitted through hidden channels, would provide Earth's leadership with detailed intelligence about alien military capabilities and weaknesses. The rebellion on Kepler 442b had been ended peacefully. The Kelperians had received better conditions while the Council got their minerals. General Krextar believed he had found useful new soldiers, but the most important result was invisible to alien observers. Humanity had just conducted its first field test of galactic intelligence gathering, and the results exceeded every expectation. The aliens thought they were training primitive soldiers to follow orders. In reality, they had given Earth's most skilled operatives access to detailed information about Council military systems, tactical procedures, and command structures. As the human ship disappeared into faster-than-light travel, Kim Tae-hyun smiled at the irony. The aliens wanted to whoa. Dr. Han Seojin stood in what appeared to be a simple research laboratory on the outskirts of Seoul. To any casual observer, the building looked like one of thousands of technology companies scattered across Earth's cities. But 5 levels below, ground, hidden behind electromagnetic shielding and quantum encryption, lay the nerve center of humanity's greatest secret, the Prometheus Network. "Status report," Dr. Han requested as he entered the main operations center. Banks of quantum computers hummed quietly while holographic displays showed star maps, communication intercepts, and real-time intelligence feeds from across the galaxy. "All nodes operational," reported Yoon Ji-ho through the secure communication link. His voice was slightly distorted by the quantum encryption, but his message was clear. "Nexus Prime infiltration proceeding ahead of schedule." Dr. Han smiled as he looked at Yoon Ji-ho's personnel file. According to official records, Yoon was a minor bureaucrat from the aquatic Zethran species, working in the Galactic Council's administrative archives. In reality, he was a human operative who had undergone 3 years of surgical modification, genetic therapy, and psychological conditioning to pass as an alien. "What have you learned about their record-keeping systems?" Dr. Han asked. "Comprehensive but poorly secured," Yoon replied. "They store everything in centralized databases with minimal encryption. I have access to military deployment records, economic data, and political communication logs dating back 50 years. This was exactly what Dr. Han had hoped to hear. Wow. Aliens' confidence in their technological superiority had made them careless about security. They never imagined that a primitive species might be capable of infiltrating their systems. Across the operations center, dozens of other human technicians monitored similar communication links. Each represented another operative working deep within alien society. Some had been in place for over 5 years, slowly building trust and access while gathering intelligence. "Bae So-young, report," Dr. Han called to his cyber warfare specialist. "Network. Mapping 93% complete," Bae So-young replied from her workstation. "We have identified critical vulnerabilities in 12 major alien computer systems. Their cybersecurity is approximately 40 years behind current human capabilities." Dr. Han was not surprised. The aliens had achieved peace and stability through overwhelming technological advantage. They had not needed to innovate in security because no one had been capable of challenging them. Until now. "Show me the current network status," he requested. The main holographic display changed to show a 3-dimensional map of local galactic space. Hundreds of small lights indicated human operatives, monitoring stations, and hidden communication. Relays. Red lines connected them all in a web of information that spanned dozens of star systems. "We have real-time intelligence on every major alien military installation," Bae So-young explained. "Economic monitoring covers 78% of galactic trade routes. Political surveillance includes all 12 council species." The scope of the network was staggering. While the aliens had been congratulating themselves on finding new servants, humanity had been methodically building the most comprehensive intelligence operation in galactic history. "How long before they notice our activities?" Dr. Han asked. "At current expansion rates, possibly never," Bae So-young replied. "Their intelligence services focus on external threats and obvious military movements. They are not designed to detect covert infiltration by a supposedly primitive species. This was the key to humanity's success. The aliens' arrogance was their greatest weakness. They could not imagine that a species they considered inferior might be running circles around their security systems." Dr. Han activated a secure link to another part of the facility. "Professor Lim, please join us." Professor Lim Mi-young was humanity's leading expert on alien psychology and sociology. She had spent 15 years studying intercepted alien communications, cultural patterns, and political structures. Her insights had been crucial to the success of human infiltration operations. "The council species are more fragile than they appear," Professor Lim explained as she joined the briefing. "Each civilization is held in place by fear of the others and dependence on council protection. Remove that protection, and many would collapse within months." "Specific examples?" Dr. Han requested. "The Therian collective depends entirely on imported food because they converted their agricultural worlds to industrial production. The Grex Republic has no independent energy sources and relies on Council fusion technology. The Vorthak hives would face immediate civil war if their queen caste lost access to Council life extension treatments. This information had been gathered through years of patient observation. Human operatives had identified every critical dependency and weakness in alien society. The Council looked powerful from the outside, but humanity knew exactly how to bring it down if necessary. What about their military capabilities? Dr. Han asked. Advanced but predictable, Professor Lim replied. They have not faced a real threat in over 2 centuries. Their tactics are outdated, their command structures are rigid, and their logistics systems are overcomplicated. The holographic display shifted to show detailed schematics of alien warships, weapons systems, and defensive installations. Every piece of information had been gathered by human operatives who the aliens trusted completely. Most importantly, Professor Lim continued, they have no concept of information warfare. They think of conflict in terms of ships and weapons. They do not understand that control of information can be more powerful than any fleet. Dr. Han nodded thoughtfully. This was exactly the advantage humanity needed. The aliens were prepared to fight the last war, not the next one. Status update from Captain Kim, announced Communications Officer Park Jin-hyun. The Kepler 442b operation was a complete success. General Krekstar is pleased with human performance and is requesting additional troops for future missions. Excellent, Dr. Han replied. Each mission gives us more access to their military systems and procedures. The aliens thought they were using human soldiers as expendable troops. In reality, every deployment was an intelligence-gathering operation that provided invaluable data about alien capabilities and weaknesses. Dr. Han, Yoon Ji-ho's voice came through the communication link again. I have discovered something interesting in the Council archives. What kind of something? Dr. Han asked. References to a threat called the Void Collective, the record Z, are heavily classified, but it appears to be some kind of machine intelligence from outside the galaxy. The Council has been monitoring for signs of their return. Dr. Han frowned. This was new information. How long since their last appearance? 300 years, according to these records. But recent deep space monitoring stations have detected unusual signals that match historical Void Collective patterns. This was potentially serious. If the galaxy faced an external threat, it could disrupt humanity's long-term plans. Dr. Han made a mental note to investigate further. Continue monitoring and report any additional information, he instructed. Understood, Yoon replied. Dr. Han turned to his senior staff. Current assessment? Are we ready for Phase 3? Phase 3 would involve more active operations. Instead of just gathering intelligence, human operatives would begin subtly influencing alien decision-making. Key leaders would receive information that led them to conclusions favorable to humanity. Economic pressures would be applied to weaken alien resistance to human expansion. Network security is solid, Bae So-young reported. Our operatives are trusted and well-positioned. Communication systems are undetectable. Intelligence coverage is comprehensive, added Professor Lim. We understand alien psychology well enough to predict their responses to various stimuli. Military assessment is complete, concluded Park Jin-hyun. We know their capabilities, weaknesses, and standard operating procedures. Dr. Han looked around the operations center one more time. In just 5 years, humanity had gone from being unknown to the galaxy to having detailed knowledge of every major alien civilization. The Council species believed they were the dominant power in known space. They had no idea that a species they considered primitive had been studying them like laboratory specimens, mapping their every weakness, and preparing for the day when humanity would reveal its true capabilities. Begin Phase 3, Dr. Han ordered, but maintain absolute security. We are not ready for direct confrontation yet. How will we know when we are ready? Professor Lim asked. Dr. Han smiled as he looked at the galaxy-spanning network they had built. When the time comes, we will not need to fight them. They will surrender because they will understand that resistance is impossible. As the Operations Center continued its work, monitoring alien communications and directing covert operations across dozens of worlds, Dr. Han reflected on humanity's position. The aliens thought they had found useful servants. They had actually awakened a sleeping giant that had been preparing for this moment longer than they could imagine. The galaxy was about to learn a lesson that would change everything. Underestimating humanity was not just foolish, it was dangerous. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was unlike anything in 3 centuries. Speaker Vorthak's mandibles clicked rapidly as he studied the tactical displays showing the outer rim of the galaxy. Red warning symbols covered nearly a quarter of the map. "How many ships?" he asked General Krextar, though he already knew the answer would be terrible. "Over 10,000 confirmed," the reptilian general replied, his scales a dark purple indicating extreme stress. "Possibly twice that number." They appeared simultaneously at 17 different points along the galactic rim. The Void Collective had returned. Counselor Theiss coiled her tentacles nervously. "How is this possible? Our monitoring stations showed no signs of their approach." "They came from dark space," General Krextar explained. "No energy signatures, no gravitational disturbances. Their ships appear to be made of some kind of matter that our sensors cannot detect until they activate their systems." Admiral Song Hyun-woo listened to the alien discussion from his position at the back of the council chamber. He wore the simple uniform of a human military advisor, a role the aliens had granted him after Captain Kim's success on Kepler 442b. To the council members, he was just another primitive species representative, present to learn how real civilizations handled serious threats. They had no idea he was humanity's most experienced fleet commander, and that he had been preparing for this exact scenario for over 2 years. "What are their capabilities?" Speaker Vorthak inquired. "Unknown," admitted General Krextar. "Our records from 300 years ago are incomplete. We know they are machine intelligences of some kind, but their technology appears to have advanced significantly since their last appearance." This was not entirely true. Deep in the classified archives that Yoon Ji-ho had accessed, detailed records existed of the previous Void Collective incursion. The aliens simply did not want to admit how badly they had performed in that conflict. "Current status of our forces?" Vorthak continued. 57 fleets deployed across 12 sectors, General Krextar replied. "Total of approximately 8,000 ships. We have numerical parity, but their technology appears superior to ours." Admiral Song Hyun-woo knew these numbers were wrong. Through the Prometheus network, humanity had been tracking alien military movements for months. The actual Council fleet strength was closer to 6,000 ships, and many of those were outdated vessels kept in service only for patrol duties. "We need reinforcements," declared Counselor Grex. "Every member species must contribute their full military capacity." This meant calling up reserve fleets, converting civilian ships to military use, and drafting soldiers from across the galaxy. It would be the largest military mobilization in Council history. "What about the humans?" asked Trade Minister Zeph. "Their soldiers performed well on Kepler 442b. General Krextar's scales showed mild amusement. "They have perhaps 50 ships total, barely enough for a single battle group. But every vessel will help." Admiral Song allowed himself a small smile. The aliens' intelligence about human military capabilities was even worse than he had expected. "Admiral Song," Speaker Vorthak addressed him directly, "can your species contribute to our defense?" Song stood and bowed respectfully. "Earth stands ready to assist the Council in any way possible. We can provide 12 ships and 3,000 soldiers immediately." 12 ships? Counselor Theiss seemed surprised. "I thought humans had a larger fleet." "Most of our vessels are needed for system defense," Song explained with appropriate humility. "We are still a young spacefaring species. But our soldiers are eager to prove their worth." This was technically true. Earth did have ships assigned to system defense. The aliens simply did not know that system defense included over 200 star systems that humanity had been quietly colonizing for the past decade. "Very well," Vorthak decided. "All available forces will rendezvous at Sigma Draconis. We make our stand there." As the council session ended, Song transmitted a coded message through seemingly standard communication channels. To alien observers, it appeared to be routine coordination with Earth Command. In reality, it was the activation signal for Operation Prometheus. Dr. Han Seojin received the signal in his underground facility and immediately activated secure channels to human fleets scattered across the galaxy. Within hours, 200 ships began moving toward predetermined positions. The alien commanders gathered at Sigma Draconis expected to see a small human contingent arrive to support their massive fleet. Instead, Admiral Song appeared with 12 ships that looked nothing like the primitive vessels the Council had seen before. Admiral Song, General Krextar greeted him as the human ships took their assigned positions. "Your vessels appear different. New designs," Song replied casually. "Earth's shipyards have been busy." This was an understatement. The ships looked like elegant fusion of human engineering and technology that seemed impossible for such a young species. They moved with precision that impressed even veteran alien commanders. "Impressive for such a small force," Admiral Zeph commented. "We do our best," Song replied modestly. What the aliens could not see was that each human ship contained technology that was decades ahead of anything in the Council fleets. More importantly, the ships were equipped with quantum communication systems that connected them to every other human vessel in the galaxy. When the Void Collective attack began, it exceeded every alien expectation. The machine ships moved in, perfect coordination, their weapon systems adapting in real time to counter defensive measures. Within the first hour, the Council lost 30% of its fleet. "Their tactics are impossible," General Krextar reported from his flagship. "They anticipate our movements before we make them." Admiral Song studied the battle displays with growing concern. The Void Collective was indeed more advanced than historical records indicated, but their patterns of attack revealed something interesting. "Lieutenant Kang," Song addressed his tactical officer quietly. "Analysis?" Lieutenant Kang Nari had been studying the enemy movements through sensors that were far more sophisticated than anything the aliens possessed. "Their coordination suggests a central control system. If we can identify and disrupt it, their individual units should become much less effective." "Location?" "Unknown. The control signals are too well hidden, but their tactical responses follow. Predictable patterns. They are adaptive, but not creative." Song nodded. This was exactly what humanity had been preparing for. The Void Collective were machines, which meant they could be understood and countered through careful analysis. "Initiate Protocol 7, Song ordered. To the alien commanders, it appeared that the human ships suddenly began moving with impossible coordination. Their weapons struck targets with surgical precision while their defensive systems seemed to predict enemy attacks. "How are they doing that?" Admiral Zeph demanded over the communication channel. "Human tactical innovation," Song replied calmly, while his ships systematically dismantled a Void Collective battle group. The truth was more complex. The human ships were connected through the Prometheus network, sharing sensor data and tactical analysis in real time. Every ship knew what every other ship was doing, creating a level of coordination that the Void Collective had not encountered before. More importantly, human tactics were based on centuries of studying conflict rather than centuries of peace. While the aliens had grown comfortable with overwhelming technological advantage, humanity had been preparing for exactly this kind of adaptive enemy. "Admiral Song," General Krextar's voice was strained with desperation. "Can your forces assist our 4th battle group? They are being overwhelmed." "Of course," Song replied, though privately he noted that the aliens' tactical coordination was falling apart under pressure. The human ships moved to support the struggling alien forces, but instead of simply adding firepower, they began coordinating the entire battle group's movements. Suddenly, ships that had been fighting as individuals began working as a team. "Remarkable," Counselor Thiss observed from her command ship. "The humans appear to understand our tactical systems better than we do." This was true, though not in the way she imagined. Human intelligence had been studying alien military doctrine for years. They knew exactly how Council forces were supposed to operate, even when the aliens themselves had forgotten their own training. As the battle continued, it became clear that the tide was turning. The Void Collective's adaptive systems could not cope with the unpredictable combination of alien technology and human tactics. Their carefully planned assault began to falter. Impossible. The Nexus Mind, the apparent leader of the Void Collective, transmitted on all frequencies. "Your species was not present in our previous calculations," Admiral Song responded personally. "We are new to the galaxy. Perhaps that is why your calculations were wrong." "Identify yourselves," the Nexus Mind demanded. "Humans of Earth," Song replied simply. There was a pause that lasted nearly 10 seconds, an eternity for a machine intelligence. When the Nexus mind spoke again, its tone had changed completely. Retreat. All units, immediate retreat. New variables require recalculation. The Void Collective ships disappeared as suddenly as they had appeared, leaving the galaxy's defenders victorious but confused. Did we win? General Krextar asked uncertainly. Yes, Admiral Song confirmed, though I suspect they will return. The Emergency Council session convened 3 days after the Void Collective retreat. The Great Hall that had once been filled with alien confidence now buzzed with nervous energy and whispered conversations. The 12 species representatives looked at each other with new uncertainty, and all of them looked at Ambassador Lee Junho with something approaching fear. The Council recognizes Ambassador Lee Junho of Earth, Speaker Vorthak announced, his mandibles clicking with barely controlled anxiety. Junho stood from his chair, no longer the humble representative who had begged for membership months earlier. His posture was straight, his expression was calm, and his eyes held the confidence of someone who knew exactly what cards he held. "Thank you, Speaker Vorthak," Junho replied. "I have requested this private session because it is time for complete honesty between our peoples." The aliens exchanged glances. After witnessing human performance against the Void Collective, they had begun to suspect that their understanding of humanity was incomplete. "We would welcome such honesty," Zelthara said carefully. Junho activated a holographic projector that materialized from thin air, causing several aliens to recoil in surprise. The technology was far more advanced than anything they had seen humans use before. "Let me begin with a simple question," Junho said as the hologram displayed a star map of local galactic space. "How long do you think humanity has been capable of faster-than-light travel?" 312 years, Counselor Grex replied automatically. "Wrong," Junho said, and the star map changed to show human colonies scattered across dozens of systems. "We achieved faster-than-light travel 450 years ago. We have been watching your civilization for 3 centuries. The silence in the chamber was complete. Even the environmental systems seemed to quiet as the implications sank in. "That is impossible," General Krextar protested. "Our monitoring systems would have detected—" "Your monitoring systems detect technology that matches your own signatures," Junho interrupted. "We developed different principles specifically to avoid detection." Dr. Han Seojin materialized as a hologram next to Junho, causing several aliens to jump in alarm. "Good evening, counselors. I am Dr. Han Seojin, Director of Human Intelligence Operations." "Intelligence Operations?" Speaker Vorthak's voice was barely a whisper. The holographic display changed again, this time showing detailed schematics of alien military installations, government buildings, and private residences. Every major structure in council space appeared, on the map, labeled with security assessments and infiltration routes. "For the past 5 years," Dr. Han explained, "we have maintained comprehensive surveillance of your civilizations. We know your military capabilities, economic vulnerabilities, political relationships, and personal secrets." Park Mina appeared as another hologram, carrying the same data pad she had used during that first council meeting. "Every question I asked, every observation I made was part of a detailed intelligence assessment. We needed to understand your psychology, your technology, and your weaknesses." "Weaknesses?" Counselor Theiss coiled her tentacles defensively. "Every species has them," Park Mina replied matter-of-factly. "The Therian Collective imports 87% of their food supply. The Grex Republic depends entirely on Council. Fusion technology for energy. The Vorthak hives require life extension treatments that only 3 facilities in the galaxy can produce." As she spoke, the holographic display showed detailed supply routes, manufacturing facilities, and critical infrastructure for each species. The aliens watched in growing horror as their most carefully guarded secrets were revealed with casual precision. "The Nexus Prime Orbital Defense Network," Dr. Han continued, "has 17 critical vulnerabilities that would allow a coordinated attack to penetrate its shields. The Council's economic system depends on trade routes that could be disrupted at 43 key points. Your military command structure could be paralyzed by targeting 12 specific communication hubs." General Krextar's scales had gone completely white. "You have been studying us?" Comprehensively, Junho confirmed. "We needed to understand exactly what we were dealing with before revealing ourselves." the holographic display shifted to show human military assets. Instead of the primitive fleet the aliens expected, they saw hundreds of advanced warships, orbital defense platforms, and planetary installations that rivaled anything in Council space. Your current military assessment of human capabilities, Admiral Song Hyunwoo appeared as another hologram, estimates our fleet strength at approximately 50 vessels. The actual number is 2,347 ships, with technological capabilities that exceed Council standards by an average of 30 years. 2,000 ships? Admiral Zeph's voice cracked with disbelief. Our shipyards have been operating continuously for decades, Song explained. While you believed we were struggling to achieve basic spaceflight, we were actually building one of the largest fleets in galactic history. The aliens sat in stunned silence as the true scope of human capabilities was revealed. Every assumption they had made about humanity was not just wrong, but catastrophically wrong. The Kepler 442b operation, Captain Kim Tae-hyun appeared next. To the other holograms, was not a peacekeeping mission. It was a field test of our intelligence-gathering capabilities and a practical examination of Council military procedures. The rebellion was not spontaneous, Lieutenant Choi Yuna added. It was orchestrated by human operatives who had been on the planet for 6 months, studying Kelperian society and preparing the groundwork for our intervention. General Krex Tar looked like he might collapse. You manipulated the entire situation, we created the conditions for success, Kim Tae-hyun replied diplomatically. We knew exactly what the Kelperians needed and exactly how you would respond to their uprising. The holographic display showed the final revelation, a real-time map of the Prometheus network. Thousands of communication nodes, surveillance stations, and deep-cover operatives appeared across the galaxy like stars in the night sky. Yoon Ji-ho, Dr. Han called, and another human appeared as a hologram. But this figure wore the distinctive blue-tinted skin and enlarged eyes of a Zethran. Several council members gasped in recognition. They had seen this individual countless times in the administrative archives. Genetic modification, surgical reconstruction, and 3 years of cultural conditioning, Dr. Han explained. Yoon has been working in your archives for 4 years, downloading every classified document in your databases. How many? Speaker Vorthak asked weakly. How many operatives? Dr. Han considered the question. In critical positions throughout your governments, military organizations, and economic systems? Approximately 300. The number hit the aliens like a physical blow. For years, they had been completely infiltrated without ever suspecting it. The battle against the Void Collective, Admiral Song continued, demonstrated another aspect of human capabilities. Our tactical coordination, sensor systems, and weapons technology are all significantly more advanced than what we revealed during that engagement. You held back? General Krextar asked. Considerably, Song confirmed. We used approximately 15% of our available capabilities. We wanted to contribute to the victory without revealing the full extent of our military strength. Why? Zelthara finally asked the question that everyone was thinking. Why did you do all of this? Why the deception? Junho looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of each council member. Because we needed to understand you before you understood us. Because knowledge is power. And we wanted to ensure that any relationship between our species would be based on accurate information rather than false assumptions. And now? Speaker Vorthak asked. Now you have a choice. Junho replied simply. We can continue the pretense that you are our superiors and we are your servants. Or we can establish a genuine partnership based on mutual respect and shared benefits. The holographic display changed one final time, showing a new galactic map. Human colonies, alien territories, and shared economic zones were clearly marked. Trade routes, mutual defense agreements, and technological exchange programs were outlined in detail. This is what we propose, Dr. Han explained, a genuine federation where each species contributes according to their strengths and receives benefits according to their needs. Humans will provide military coordination, intelligence, services, and technological innovation. Other species will contribute their own unique capabilities. And if we refuse? Counselor Grex asked. The question hung in the air for a long moment. Junho's expression remained calm, but his meaning was clear. You will not refuse, he said. quietly. Because you now understand that refusing would be unwise. The implications were obvious. Humanity had been 3 steps ahead of galactic civilization for years. They had detailed intelligence on every military installation, economic system, and government structure in council space. They had operatives in positions of trust throughout alien society. They had military capabilities that far exceeded anything the council could field. You could have conquered us at any time, Speaker Vorthak realized. Yes, Junho confirmed. We could have. We chose not to. The question now is, what kind of relationship would you prefer to have with us? The chamber fell silent as the aliens contemplated their situation. 6 months after the revelation that changed everything, President Lim Yunji stood before the newly constructed Galactic Federation Assembly. The building on Nexus Prime had been redesigned to accommodate representatives from over 30 species, including several that had joined the Federation only after learning about humanity's true capabilities. The old council chambers had been too small and too focused on the 12 dominant species. The new assembly hall was circular, with each species holding seats proportional to their population and contribution to the Federation. Humans occupied a modest section that reflected their smaller numbers, but no one in the room doubted who actually held the real power. The Federation Council recognizes President Lim Yunji of Earth, announced Secretary General Oh Minho, who had been elected to oversee the new government structure. President Lim rose from her seat, a small woman with gray hair and tired eyes, who had guided humanity through the most complex diplomatic transition in galactic history. Unlike the dramatic revelations of 6 months earlier, today's session was about the practical business of governing a galaxy. Thank you, Secretary General. Oh, she began. Today's agenda concerns the integration of the Outer Rim colonies and the response to recent intelligence about void collective movements. The transformation had not been easy. Some alien species had adapted quickly to the new reality, like Zelthara's aquatic people who had embraced partnership with humans and benefited enormously from shared technology. Others had struggled with the psychological impact of learning they were no longer the dominant force in their own galaxy. Former Speaker Vorthak, now serving as regional administrator for the Coreward sectors, clicked his mandibles nervously as he prepared his report. The proud insectoid leader had been humbled by the revelation that his species had been completely outmaneuvered by beings they considered primitive. The Kepler Mining Consortium has increased production by 47% since implementing human logistics systems, he reported. The Kelperian workers are satisfied with their new employment contracts, and efficiency has improved across all operations. This was typical of the changes throughout the galaxy. Human expertise in organization, psychology, and technology had improved conditions for most species, while increasing overall productivity. The Federation was more prosperous and stable than the old council had ever been. Excellent, President, Lim replied. Admiral Song, please provide the security update. Admiral Song Hyunwoo had been promoted to Supreme Commander of Federation Forces, a position that would have been unthinkable for a human just 1 year earlier. He stood and activated a holographic display showing the galaxy's outer rim. Long range. Sensors have detected Void Collective scout ships at 7 locations beyond the galactic boundary, he reported. They appear to be conducting systematic reconnaissance, probably preparing for another invasion attempt. The aliens in the assembly showed visible anxiety at this news. Their previous encounter with the Void Collective had been traumatic, saved only by human intervention. Our response? President Lim inquired. Admiral Kang is leading a task force to establish early warning stations beyond the rim, Song replied. We are also implementing new defensive technologies that should prove effective against Void Collective adaptive systems. Admiral Kang Nari had been one of the junior officers who helped analyze the Void Collective during their last attack. Now she commanded a fleet of 200 ships and had become one of the most respected military leaders in the galaxy. The new defensive systems are based on human quantum computing technology, Song continued. They will allow our forces to adapt faster than the Void Collective can compensate. This was another example of how human leadership had transformed galactic capabilities. While the aliens had been content to maintain existing technology, humanity had been pushing the boundaries of what was possible. Trade Minister Bay, Economic report, President Lim requested. Bae So-young, formerly a cyber warfare specialist, had discovered a talent for economic planning during the Federation transition. Her understanding of galactic information systems had made her uniquely qualified to redesign trade networks. Galactic commerce has increased by 31% since Federation implementation, she reported. The elimination of council bureaucratic barriers and the introduction of human manufacturing techniques have created unprecedented prosperity. This was perhaps the most important change. Under the old council system, trade had been heavily regulated and often inefficient. Human streamlining had created wealth that benefited everyone. Species integration continues ahead of schedule, Bae continued. The Therian Collective has achieved food independence for the first time in 2 centuries. The Grex Republic is developing independent energy systems with human technical assistance. These developments address the critical vulnerabilities that humanity had identified years earlier. By helping alien species become more self-sufficient, the Federation was becoming stronger and more stable. What about the holdout systems? President Lim asked. There were still a few species that had refused to join the Federation, mostly out of pride or fear. They maintained independent governments in isolated sectors, but their influence was negligible. The Zarkonian Empire continues to resist Federation membership, Bae reported. However, their trade volume with Federation systems has increased substantially. We estimate they will request membership within 2 years. And the hegemony? Still hostile, but contained. Their military capabilities are insufficient to threaten Federation territory, and their economy is declining due to isolation. President Lim nodded. The few remaining independent systems were learning that isolation from the Federation meant isolation from prosperity and security. Dr. Han, intelligence update, she requested. Dr. Han Seojin appeared via hologram from his facility on Earth, where he continued to oversee the vast intelligence network that kept the Federation informed about potential threats. The Prometheus network now covers 97% of inhabited galactic space, he reported. We have early warning capabilities for military threats, economic disruptions, and political instability. Any current concerns? Minor. Some political tensions in the outer colonies, but nothing that cannot be managed through standard diplomatic channels. The Void Collective remains our primary external threat. The network that had once been humanity's secret weapon was now the Federation's early warning system, protecting all member species from threats they might not even know existed. Professor Lim, Cultural Assessment, President Lim called. Professor Lim Mi-young had become the Federation's chief advisor on interspecies relations, helping smooth the psychological transition for species that struggled with the new galactic order. Adaptation rates continue to improve, she reported. Younger generations of all species are more comfortable with human leadership than their elders. We estimate complete cultural integration within 50 years. Resistance movements? Declining. Most opposition was based on fear of human intentions. As benefits of Federation membership become apparent, resistance fades. This had been one of humanity's greatest challenges. Convincing alien species that human dominance would benefit rather than oppress them required careful management and constant demonstration of good faith. Specific issues? The Vorthak hives still struggle with concepts of individual rights. The Grex Republic has difficulty adapting to democratic decision-making processes. But progress is steady. President Lim looked around the assembly hall, noting the mix of alien species who now work together more effectively than the old council ever had. The transformation had been remarkably smooth, considering the scale of change involved. Final business, she announced. Long-term planning. Secretary General O activated a new holographic display showing galactic expansion plans, technological development projects, and defense preparations that would take decades to complete. The Andromeda Contact Project has been approved, O reported. We will begin construction of exploration vessels capable of intergalactic travel within 5 years. This was humanity's next great project. Having secured their position in the local galaxy, they were preparing to make contact with neighboring galaxies and expand the Federation's influence across the universe. The Void Collective threat makes this project more urgent, Admiral Song added. If they return in greater numbers, we may need allies from outside the galaxy. Resource allocation? President Lim inquired. 12 species have volunteered to contribute materials and labor, O replied. The project will demonstrate Federation unity while advancing our collective security. As the session concluded, President Lim reflected on the remarkable transformation that had occurred. 18 months earlier, humanity had been unknown to galactic civilization. Now they led a federation that was more powerful, prosperous, and secure than any government in galactic history. "Before we adjourn," she announced, "I want to address a question that many of you still have." The assembly fell silent, waiting for her words. "You wonder why humanity chose partnership over conquest, why we revealed our capabilities instead of simply taking control, why we offered cooperation instead of demanding submission." She paused, looking around the chamber at representatives of dozens of species who had once considered humans primitive servants. The A